Good morning. Here is the news at dawn on Premier FM 93.5. First, the headlines. President Tinubu urges clerics to speak against terrorism. INEC extends upload deadline for governorship candidates. Police releases Osun Commissioner arrested over violence. What happened this day in history? Find out in our Lest We Forget segment. Heart of the matter is on making judicious use of assets recovery. You can track us on www.radionigeriaibadan.gov.ng, X and Instagram at PFM935 Ibadan. I am Adeyemi Hamzat. Now the news in detail. President Bola Tinubu has called on religious and spiritual leaders to consistently raise their voices against terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, and the misuse of religion to justify violence and cruelty, stressing that no genuine service to God can be advanced through the destruction of innocent human lives. Addressing the World Khalifa of the Tijaniya Order, scholars, spiritual leaders, and adherents from Nigeria and other countries, President Tinubu said religious leaders have an important responsibility in confronting violent extremism and the manipulation of faith for destructive purposes. He also urged religious institutions and networks to strengthen their advocacy for peace education, religious literacy, scholarship, and the moral formation of young people while using their influence to promote justice, responsibility, compassion, and peaceful resolution of grievances. President Tinubu observed that the gathering was taking place at a consequential moment in human history, with societies across the world confronted by conflicts, uncertainty, climate shocks, food and energy shocks, violent extremism, terrorism, transnational crimes, and the increasingly dangerous manipulation of identity and religion. He said the Tijaniya community, with its extensive spiritual networks across West Africa, North Africa, and beyond, possesses relationships and moral capital that could be deployed for reconciliation, countering violent extremism, youth guidance, and humanitarian solidarity across the Sahel, West Africa, and the wider world. The president said the federal government recognizes the critical roles of religious and traditional leaders in deepening tolerance, countering misinformation and identity-based division, strengthening grassroots peace building, and promoting peaceful coexistence. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has extended the deadline for political parties to upload the names of candidates for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections from August 8 to August 11, 2026. INEC announced the extension in a statement issued by the chairman of its Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Mohammed Haruna. According to the Commission, the decision followed appeals by political parties for additional time to complete the submission process. In a related development, INEC announced the suspension of the collection of permanent voter cards, PVCs, in Osun State ahead of the August 15 governorship election. Mr. Haruna said voters who applied for replacement of lost, damaged, or defaced PVCs have until midnight yesterday to print downloadable copies of their cards. The Commission also said replacement downloadable PVCs had been provided for voters in Odoti and Ife central local government areas, whose cards were reportedly carted away by hoodlums who invaded the two collection centers. Mr. Haruna recalled that PVC collection in Osun commenced at the registration area level on July 22 and was initially scheduled to run until July 28. However, following complaints about large crowds and difficulties faced by voters at collection centers, the Commission extended the exercise at the registration area level to July 31 before moving it to the local government level from August 1 to 7. The Commission reiterated its commitment to conducting a free, fair, credible, and inclusive governorship election in Osun State. You're on to the news at dawn on Premier FM 93.5 from the stable of Radio Nigeria. Stay with us. Thank you for being there. This day in 2006, gunmen dressed in military uniforms seized 2 foreign oil workers in the southern region of Nigeria. And also the rest of the stories. The police command in Osun has released the State Commissioner for Environment, Mr. Mayowa Anjorin, arrested over alleged shooting at the political procession in Ilesha. A spokesperson for the command, DSP Abiodun Ojelabi, confirmed the release to newsmen in Osogbo. According to a statement by Ojelabi, suspected armed men in a government vehicle allegedly alerted and fired into the vicinity of an ongoing political procession in Ilesha. He added that the armed men were reportedly dressed as personnel of the Osun State Security Network Agency, also known as Amotekun Corps. He said 3 persons sustained gunshot injuries during the incident and that they were taken to the hospital for medical attention. Meanwhile, as Osun State residents decide who the next governor of their state will be in the forthcoming election, stakeholders have been advised to let peace prevail before, during, and after the election. The minister in charge of Christ Apostolic Church, CAC Wonderland, Orita Mary Ojo Arologun Road, Ojo Ibadan, Pastor Oluwafemi Adeleke, gave the charge in an interview with Radio Nigeria in Ibadan. Pastor Adeleke explained that election represents a crucial moment of leadership shifts, saying the August 15, 2026 poll in Osun State should reflect people's choice rather than done out of compulsion or by intimidation. Commenting on the proposed legislation seeking to prohibit unsolicited religious preaching in some vehicles, Pastor Adeleke attributed it to satanic influence seeking possible avenues to hinder the propagation of the gospel. Pastor Adeleke, who stressed the need for a rethink by the lawmakers on the proposed legislation, admonished adherents to be wary of the signs of the second coming of Jesus Christ, remain steadfast in prayers, and sustain true worship. And now to sports. Defending champions Super Falcons of Nigeria have crashed out of the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations WAFCON after losing to the Indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon in the quarterfinals. Miriam Inyajui scored the only goal of the encounter, which proved to the decisive as Cameroon held on to beat Nigeria 1-0 and advanced to the semi-finals. The Indomitable Lionesses will face host nation Morocco in the semi-final on Wednesday. Also, the potent Malawi have made it through to the semi-finals after defeating Ghana 2-1 last night. Malawi will battle Algeria on Wednesday for a place in the final. Security is everyone's business. If you see something, say something. Heart of the matter today takes a look at making judicious use of asset recovery. It is written by Fauziya Kashim of our Current Affairs Unit.
Recently, Federal High Court Abuja ordered the final forfeiture of 48 of the 57 property linked to former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami to the federal government. This is another significant development in the country's evolving asset recovery efforts. Beyond the personalities involved, the case is also a reflection of how the country manages its public resources, enforces accountability, and prevents the misuse of state power. While it is pertinent that alleged diverted assets recovery is necessary, it cannot become the primary measure of success in the fight against corruption. These recoveries are vital in the fight against corruption, as it demonstrates that public officials who abuse their position can eventually be held accountable. The critical question that should come to mind is whether asset recoveries address the root causes of corruption or merely treat the symptoms of a deeper institutional failure. Former President Muhammadu Buhari laid important foundations, particularly through legislative interventions such as the Proceeds of Criminal Acts 2022, an effort to secure the repatriation of stolen assets from foreign jurisdictions, including recovered Abacha-era loot. President Bola Tinubu continues in this direction of expanded asset recovery efforts, with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) placing asset recovery at the center of its anti-corruption strategy. Between 2023 and 2025, the country reportedly recovered hundreds of billions of naira, hundreds of millions of dollars, and thousands of property. With a recorded recovery of about 566 billion naira, $411 million, and 1,502 property within 2 years, including more than 364 billion naira recovered in 2024 alone, shows a renewed emphasis on tracing and reclaiming illicit wealth. Nigeria's corruption problem has never been caused solely by dishonest individuals. It has also been sustained by weak systems that allow abuse to occur. At this juncture, it is pertinent that government must ensure that asset recovery is accompanied by stronger accountability structures that recovered funds should be transparently managed and channeled into projects that directly improve citizens' welfare. Transparency is not merely a public relations exercise, it is essential to rebuilding public trust. It is pertinent for Nigeria to strengthen preventive mechanism, the digitization of government transactions, improved procurement monitoring, stronger whistleblowing protection, more effective auditing system, and greater independence for anti-corruption agencies are all necessary if the country is serious about reducing corruption. The goal should be to build institutions that function effectively regardless of who occupies political office. Sustainable progress requires institutions that are strong enough to prevent abuse, detect wrongdoing early, and ensure that offenders face consequences such that asset recovery is viewed as one component of a broader governance reform agenda, not as its final destination. The recovery of billions of naira, foreign currencies, and property from individuals accused of abusing public trust is encouraging, but the true victory against corruption would not be measured by the values of assets recovered, but by measures of whether Nigeria has built a system in which such assets can no longer be easily stolen.
That script on making judicious use of asset recovery was written by Fauzia Kashim of our Current Affairs Unit and read by Remy Omolola. To end the news at dawn on Premier FM 93.5 from the stable of Radio Nigeria, the main items again. President Bola Tinubu has called on religious and spiritual leaders to consistently raise their voices against terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, and the misuse of religion to justify violence and cruelty, stressing that no genuine service to God can be advanced through the destruction of innocent human lives. Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has extended the deadline for political parties to upload the names of candidates for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections from August 8 to August 11, 2026. The police command in Osun has released the State Commissioner for Environment, Mr. Mayowa Anjori, arrested over alleged shooting at the political procession in Ilisha. At that ends the news at dawn on Premier FM 93.5 from the stable of Radio Nigeria, edited by Omolola Lamu. I am Adeyemi Hamzat. Thank you for listening. Good morning.